two things that can go together. We could have a monarchy out there and an independent republic in here. It's not a problem. First of all, big question for you. Should we replace the national anthem? Well, apparently some people think we should.
No, why would we do that? I think it's a national anthem that's known around the world. I do remember Billy Connolly trying to encourage people to change it to the theme tune of the Archers, but to give it a bit more zip.
Yeah.
But no, look, this is something that we all know, we all respect, and we all should be joining in on it whenever possible. Also,
I think the fact that it's a dirge actually is part of its charm. I mean, you want it to be a bit of a dirge because it's a sort of it's meant to be a sort of a rousing, fairly serious piece of music, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and actually, I think it also means that being slower, people can join in. When you hear some national anthems at rugby or football or something like that, that's zipping along, you get people going at different speeds. You really do get a sense of union when you get the national anthem being sung at full voice in harmony and in union, not in harmony. You don't want three-part harmony.
Absolutely right. Now, we're going to be talking about cyclists a little bit later on and the kind of obsession that Sadiq Khan seems to have for allowing them to go wherever they like, meanwhile blocking cars from going anywhere at all. I was driving around in South London last Saturday morning near Lee, and there was an old, I don't know if you've seen any of these guys, but the anti-ULEZ brigade were out in force, and they had an old fire engine from, like, Victorian times, and they were just driving it around with big signs on saying, "Stop ULEZ, stop Sadiq Khan," and they were getting a lot of support from the other, people on the streets. People just walking past, people in cars honking their horns. Nobody wants this, and yet he still seems to be pushing ahead with it.
No, absolutely. And you can see why there would be support, because it's such a regressive, pernicious tax. It's a drive to fill his coffers back up with money rather than doing anything significant on air pollution. His own stats say that it will reduce NOx particulates by 1.5%, which is, any gain in pollution is fine, but when you do cost to benefit, just think what the cost is. The amount of small businesses, charities, people on lower incomes that are going to suffer as a result of this. It's just really totally the wrong answer. It should be scrapped immediately.
Yeah, it really should. And there is a legal challenge, which I presume is still kind of in the works. I think we've probably got until July, is it, for that to be resolved?
Yeah, my understanding is it's going to be around July that the court case is heard. So the court has given permission for the judicial review to happen based on 2 of the 5 most potent attacks. Basically, the fact that he had a flawed consultation, that he hasn't done enough on the scrappage scheme.
Yes, exactly right. The other big story I wanted to talk to you about is the whole Just Stop Oil crowd. They're threatening to disrupt the coronation, as well as the Republic people who want to sort of put some form of protest out there while the coronation is on as well. The police have been given new powers to stop those protests and to treat those protesters more harshly. I think that's the right thing to do. Some people worry that it's going to give the police too many powers, but I mean, up to now, the police, according to a YouGov poll this morning in The Sun, are not being harsh enough with these idiots. And we saw one yesterday complaining about getting their foot run over. They didn't appear to be in too much pain, but if you're going to stand in front of a car and try and stop it moving, that can happen.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm really pleased that these police powers are coming in. And actually, we did see some video of policemen removing Just Stop Oil protesters from the streets, from obstructing people. And it's because, look, people should be able to protest, but they've got to protest in a constructive way. Yeah. And there is nothing constructive about this approach. When I've seen them all hanging around, they've been on their iPhones, they've been using all things, lots of which are oil-based products within them. And then when they've actually had the chance to be on a TV show or have the spotlight put on them, which is what they want to get their point across, they've just not had anything to say. They've just not done it in a constructive way.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, they are kind of deranged and deluded people who think that if we were to stop drilling for oil in the North Sea, something would change about the environment. It wouldn't.
This is all going back to swampy days, isn't it?
Yeah.
About just living in a cave and stopping the capitalist economy. It's trying to overthrow capitalism, basically, rather than actually do what they're trying to do to tackle pollution. Yeah. We all want to tackle pollution, but that's why we talk about net zero, and I know some of you might not like that, but it's a transition. The whole point about net zero, it's just And first of all, it's net, so it's actually you can offset stuff. But it's also we're aiming to 2050. That's a long time away. We've got to use it every day, every week, every month, every year, rather than just switching off the lights today.
But I'll ask you the same question I always ask anybody who says net zero is a good idea. How will it change anything? It won't.
Well, in what way? I mean, I think it will, because
when we get to 2050, I doubt I'll be here to prove you wrong, unfortunately. But what will be different? How will the world be different? Because Britain has managed to offset some stuff by planting a few trees somewhere.
Yeah, but that's what I meant about. Yeah, I talked about the fact that net's not zero, but so there will be some transition. But a lot of this is driving technological changes to make sure that we can have more efficient cars, heating, transport.
I've got a very efficient car now.
Yeah, but you can have it even more efficient. And I've just got back from the G7 in Japan, and so I flew to Japan and back. And what it's doing is changing the way.
That sounds a bit dangerous for the climate.
It's driving the aerospace industry to change the way that they use different fuels and have more efficient wings.
Yeah, but I mean, I bet you didn't offset your flight to Japan, did you?
No, I didn't. So
no, because I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because there's no point. Chris Martin used to offset his flights when he was in Coldplay, and he set up a load of trees and put a load of trees into Sri Lanka, and they all burned down because it was too hot. So these are all things that people do, but they don't change anything. And I don't want to have a row with you about it, but it's rubbish.
By 2050, the planes that we're flying in will be very, very different, because I'd be using hydrogen, or they'll be using sustainable aviation fuels. The wings will be more efficient, etc. So it's what we're doing is just telling the industry that we are behind them in terms of.
And nobody minds that, Paul. But if it's more expensive, then it punishes the poorer people in this country, and that's exactly what ULEZ is about. I mean, ULEZ is about making people poorer on behalf of the environment, and I think that's the wrong way around.
You've actually got to the heart of it, Mike. I think that the drive towards cleaner living is no bad thing, as long as you're not penalising people.
Exactly.
Take people along with you on that journey. And ULEZ is exactly that. It's just a smack in the face for people that can least afford to make those changes. And it's given people no time to make those changes. It's just a matter of months. Whereas I was talking about 2050, we're talking about changing, banning petrol car sales by 2030. That's a long time away.
Not really.
People a lot of time
because if you're a family about to buy a new car and it's now 2023, you're thinking, I'll buy a car which I can keep for 10 years. But if you're going to buy a petrol or diesel car now, it's going to be worthless.
Well, no, because you can still keep it.
Yeah, but you can't sell it to anyone, can you?
You can still run it into the ground. My car I bought in 2009. But it's still compliant. It's only a little car, and I'm not going to be selling it anytime soon. I'll just use it until it's at the end of its life, and then buy whatever's around at the time. So people will be in different circumstances, and that's why we need a degree of flexibility. But importantly, give people time, not just until August. I mean, that's ridiculous. What the mayor is doing, he's saying he's giving people a matter of months to say, you've got to change one of the biggest purchases you'll ever do, but after your house.
Yeah. But, people can't afford houses or cars, the way things are going. Let's talk about George Osborne. Let's talk about George Osborne. He wants to tax orange juice, right, and ban smoking. Now, for a start, the ban smoking idea is a stupid one, because the government gets an awful lot of revenue from the taxes on cigarettes. And if he actually thinks that by making smoking illegal, people will stop smoking, he must be up a gum tree. He was talking, by the way, to the Times Health Commission yesterday.
Yeah, look, I mean, I agree. I wouldn't do either of those things. I disagree with both of those things. But I would say, though, at least when he's saying about banning smoking, it's an honest debate, because what a lot of people have said is they don't want people smoking, but as you rightly say, let's take the money from it, let's take tax from it. If you think it's a bad thing, then and you want to get rid of it. Don't have this halfway house. I'm a libertarian. I don't think we should be banning it. I don't, and I think we should actually be engaging with the other, tobacco alternatives, vaping and things like that, to see what more we can do to encourage people to other habits. In terms of orange juice, I've never thought the sugar tax is a particularly good way of approaching it. Because again, it's nanny state, and it's been proved not to work in other areas. Yeah, it might have in Mexico and places like that. It had an immediate effect, but then that sort of drifted away. And so I think it's all very well people saying, you know what, government knows best. I tell you, it doesn't. Always. No, and I say that as a member of the government.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very honest thing to have said. Well played. Thank you, Paul. And enjoy the weekend. Are you going to be watching the Coronation Anywhere special?
I'll be watching it at home. We've got street parties, both in my constituency and and in my own street as well. So I'll be going around on the Sunday, but I'm looking forward to the best view. I'd love to. It'd be nice to a bit of history to be in the Abbey, but actually you get a better view.
Well, you can always watch it on TalkTV, and afterwards, myself and Kevin O'Sullivan will be entertaining you through the evening. Will you be pledging allegiance to the King?
I have already done so, as when after when he first took the throne.
Yes, of course.
But I will happily pledge allegiance again.
Quite right too. Paul, thank you very much indeed. Paul Scully there, one of the good guys actually, Minister for Tech and the Digital Economy, even though, like every other MP, he can't explain what net zero will actually do for the world or indeed for the planet. He can't, because there is no explanation, because it's all a bit of smoke and mirrors for you to make you all feel like you're doing something great, like the cyclists of this country. We'll get into them after this on TalkTV.